Okay, for our next project, the elements of art we're going to be focusing on is form and space. When you take a look at form, form takes up space. It has three-dimensional qualities. So that means it's not flat like a piece of paper, as you can see with the Lego sculpture on the bottom left-hand corner. Space refers to the distance or areas around, between, and within the components of a piece. So as you can see in the Magritte piece on the bottom right-hand corner, you can see that there's different types of spaces around him and within his silhouette. A type of art that has both space and form is called relief art. So a relief is a wall-mounted sculpture in which the three-dimensional elements are raised from a flat base. So essentially, it is something that's kind of like attached to the wall because it lays flat. But then there's these three-dimensional elements that kind of pop out at you and come from off the page. Gabriel Schama is an Oakland-based artist. He works with laser-cut plywood. So essentially, he takes a laser and cuts into a piece of wood, and he creates these beautiful, densely layered forms that twist, intersect, and overlap to create compositions that are precise and expressionistic. Okay, so essentially, what he does is he takes a piece of wood and will carve into the pieces of wood with a laser cut and create these really, really intricate, beautiful works of art that have a lot of depth and space. And also there's some three-dimensional qualities to it because technically his top layer is sticking out from the bottom. Here's some other ideas of what his work looks like. As you can see, it's very intricate. It does take a long time because he's constantly kind of carving out new layers. And it's really, really beautiful. I noticed that there's a lot of depth within his layers, okay? Like you can actually look down and the top layer of the artwork is definitely above the bottom layer. There's three-dimensional qualities to it. It takes up space in different ways. So we're going to be thinking about his work and kind of getting inspired by his relief process while we are creating our next piece of art. So I want you to think of this question: what is a landscape? Think about it for a few seconds. I'm sure you've heard that word before. Well, a landscape depicts a scene in nature or life. Things like mountains, rivers, lakes, hills, valleys, oceans, forests, cities, anything like that you can see almost like a broad piece of land is a landscape. So on the bottom here, I have a few landscape paintings just to get you kind of thinking about what kind of landscapes you can see. You can see like a valley and some hills and some mountains and even waterfalls. So we're going to be thinking about landscapes as we create our relief art. Within a landscape, there are a lot of different things. There is a foreground. So if you take a look at the bottom part of this picture, you'll see the word foreground to the left. And essentially the foreground is what's in the front, okay? So those are the things that are closest to us, and usually they're the biggest when we are painting or drawing a landscape. The middle ground is that middle section, essentially. So what's in the middle? And now everything in the middle ground is going to be a little bit smaller and like less precise than the things in the foreground. There is something also called a horizon line. The horizon line is where the land and the sky look like they meet, and they actually look like they're touching. But in reality, it's just our perspective and our eyes kind of playing tricks on us. And then there's a background. So the background is what's in essentially all the way in the back of the photo or in the drawing. And usually it's the smallest and less defined because we can't really see it because our eye is playing tricks on us. What we are going to be doing is we're going to be creating a relief mini-like sculpture out of cardboard, okay? Your sculpture is, or your relief, I should say, is going to have a few things. One, it's going to depict a landscape of your choice. You get to choose. And two, it's going to have many layers of cardboard on top of one another to kind of create that relief-like sculpture. So let's go over the steps. The first step is to brainstorm and sketch. look up different images of landscapes that you like, right? You can think of things like mountains, hills, valleys, cityscapes, waterfalls, the beach, a rainforest, right? There's tons and tons of different landscapes. Pick one that you like, or you can pick one, maybe you took a picture of a really cool landscape when you were traveling. And so definitely think about that. After you do that on a piece of paper, quickly sketch out the landscape in pencil or marker, whatever you please. Remember, you must include a background, a middle ground, and a foreground. There has to be some elements where it looks like it's kind of going back in space. Your next step is to draw and cut out pieces of the cardboard. So essentially you will need 2 pieces of cardboard, one for the base of your relief, which will be like essentially the background, and the other for cutting out different pieces to put in the middle ground and the foreground. Okay. Begin to draw the layers of your landscape onto a piece of cardboard with pencil. Okay. Remember, think about this. How can you layer different aspects of your landscape on top of one another so that some areas are higher than others to make it more of a relief? You should have multiple drawings on your cardboard. So for example, when we take a look back at mine, I had a few things cut out. I had the 2 sets of waves cut out. So those were 2 things I cut out. And then I also drew and cut out the lighthouse. So I had 3 different things to cut out and to draw onto my piece of cardboard. After you have drawn all your pieces of your landscape, think about how you can layer them as well. You can use a scissor or even an X-ACTO knife to cut out your drawings, okay? In order to add dimension to your piece, you may tear off the top layer of the cardboard in order to see the rigid layer underneath. So you can see that I did that for my lighthouse, okay? And it just adds a really nice dimensional aspect. I'm going to show you a quick video within the next few slides that shows you how to do this. Let's quickly talk about X-ACTO blade safety. So some of you will be using an X-ACTO blade. Unfortunately, I cannot pass out X-ACTO blades to my students at home because they can be considered a weapon. And so they have to stay in school and I have to monitor how people use them and how many students use them. So if you are using an X-ACTO blade, please make sure that you get permission from your parents or your guardians or someone in the home, and make sure that someone's nearby in order when you are using them, just so you are safe. Also, think about these things. Never play with these tools. These tools are not a toy. They are a tool. Do not take them out of the classroom, as I said. Check to make sure that the blade is tight and secure. Keep a cap on when you are not using it. If you are using an X-ACTO blade, make sure that you protect the table with a cutting board underneath or some sort of, rubber mat, just so that you don't, start scratching at your table. Please hold it like a pencil and always cut away from your hand and your body. All right, let's take a quick look at this video of Ms. Parlow kind of explaining a few things. All right, so what you have done, you have sketched your idea for your landscape, okay? You thought about if you're doing a beach scene, a cityscape, a wooded scene, a forest, mountains. You thought about all of that, okay? Now it's time to do the fun relief part, okay? So we drew, we sketched, and now it's time for the cardboard. So what you'll need for this project is you're going to need 2 separate pieces of cardboard at least. One is going to be your background, okay, so what you're going to be kind of like gluing everything onto. The other one is going to be used to cut out things, okay? So as you know, I'm doing a lighthouse with like the ocean and things like that. So what I'm going to be doing is I drew already my lighthouse with my beams coming out, and even on the side here I drew part of the ocean because I'm going to start to be cutting that out. All right. We talked a little bit about razor blade safety, so you definitely want to make sure you keep all of that in mind. If you are using a razor blade, you are not allowed to take one home with you. So unfortunately, I cannot give them out. But you are allowed to use scissors, or if you have one at home, you can. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be starting to cut out my lighthouse. All right. So what I do is I make sure that the top of my kind of pointer finger is on the top of my X-ACTO knife, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to start to apply pressure and slowly follow my lines. This part is very important to just take your time and really make sure that you are not cutting out anything that you don't want to be cut out. Okay, so I'm always like also pulling, like I have my hand here holding the cardboard, and I'm always pulling away from it. I'm never going towards it because God forbid my hand slips. I definitely don't want that to happen. So I cut a good amount here, and I'm just kind of like wiggle this off as best I can. And I can always at some later point like take a scissor and kind of clean this area up a little bit. So definitely just keep that in mind. All right, so now I'm just gonna be kind of going around, cutting out my pieces for my like beams almost. Okay, I'm gonna need that. Okay, and I'm just like flipping the cardboard whenever I need to. I'm cutting off pieces just so that it will make it easier for me. And I always go section by section, taking my time. Okay. And I'm just, as I said, cutting away from myself. Definitely don't want to cut towards my hand. Always, as I said, kind of start to break some of those pieces off. I'm going to continue to cut the rest of this, and then I will show you what it looks like when it's done. Okay, so I've cut out a few of my pieces just to show you guys. I have my waves down here. I'm going to definitely be adding some more waves, but I just wanted to show you what I've kind of cut out so far. I really took my time. I wanted to make sure that everything came out the right way, so I really made sure to kind of go slow and controlled, and I made sure to use all my tools properly so that I didn't get hurt. Okay, so the next part is you are allowed to start to tear some of these the first layer of cardboard off. So actually, if you take a look under here, I can probably show you. If you take the first layer of the cardboard off, you'll see that there's this actually like really cool like ridging underneath. And I think this adds like a really cool texture and definitely some dimension to your artwork. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start thinking about where are some areas where I can actually take some of those like ridges off and show the ridges to kind of add some dimension to my artwork. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually I'm just going to now use my X-ACTO knife, but I'm going to push down really lightly. I'm not pushing all the way through. And essentially what I want to do is I'm going to try to cut out this like really small piece here. And I'm just going to lift it up. And I didn't put a lot of pressure down because I don't want to like push through and as you can see, I've like exposed some of the ridges to add a little bit of dimension to my project. And just be careful with your ends because sometimes the whole like bottom and top part will come off. So you just want to make sure that you are being as careful as possible with that. All right, so I did, oops, let's take this part here, but take this part off. Okay. All right, I'm gonna do the same thing with these, like almost like these mini windows in here. So I'm just starting to slowly go through just the first layer of the cardboard. So I'm really not pushing down too much to go all the way through, but I'm just pushing through to that first layer. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my X-ACTO knife or my scissors even, and just start to kind of take off that first layer so that you can see the ridges. Okay, and this just, I think, gives like a little bit more dimension to your art. It also gives, shows some texture. It shows that there is different things going on in your landscape. So as I said, I think this is just a really cool way to kind of start adding a little bit of dimension, just so that you don't have like pieces of cardboard on top of each other, but you actually are, you know, creating something that has more than two flat surfaces. All right, so I'm just going to continue here. As I said, I'm going to be doing this a lot throughout my project, but I just wanted to show you a quick kind of tutorial on me taking out some of these top pieces of the cardboard to show the bottom pieces. Okay, just a note as well, you should have at least 4 different layers on your, or I should say 3 different layers of surfaces on your artwork, okay? So there should be the back, there should be another layer, and then there should be at least 1 or 2 more layers. You definitely just don't want 1 or 2. All right, so for the next step, you're going to add your details. You can use colored paper, paint, markers, etc. in order to begin to add details to the layers of your cardboard pieces. You, do not glue anything down until you have finished at least cutting out your details and thinking about how you're going to place them. After you do that, you can then start to glue, okay? So after you finish the first 3 steps, and all your pieces are cut out and all of your details are cut out, you can use a hot glue gun or even Elmer's glue and begin layering your landscape relief on top of one another. Glue all your pieces down on the larger piece of cardboard that you have not cut anything out of. Don't forget to glue down any colored pieces of paper to your project. And then after everything's glued down, you can always add extra details onto your relief. You can add some paint, you can draw some things, you can add some more, paper and things like that. Get creative with this. I want to see that you understand how to, create a relief out of cardboard. If you do plan on using a glue gun, please remember these few things. Never touch the tip of a glue gun, even the glue that comes out of the glue gun. It's very, very hot. Use a craft stick or even a toothpick to remove excess glue from your artwork. Glue guns stay hot for a while even after they're unplugged, so please make sure that you leave them be for a while so that they can cool down. And remember, this is not a toy. Please use this tool appropriately. I am looking forward to seeing all of your artwork. Remember, email me with any questions.